we are going to the environmental issue. We're talking about what is ecology, what is an ecosystem. We're also talking about homeostasis of ecological system, yeah, where the self-sustained or self-stabilized system. And then after that, we're also talking about the human populations. Yeah, we say that the human population keep on increasing exponentially, right? So up to our last week lecture, any question? Oh,
No, sir.
yes, Sujia?
No question, sir.
Huh?
No question.
Oh, no question. How about assignment? Have you all started your assignment already?
Yes.
Yeah. Any question? No, no question also, right? So we are very
So far
clear.
so good. Okay, I understand.
What is that, Yao Ting?
No problem.
No problem, so I'm expecting you to score, okay? All right. So today we are looking into the the limiting factors of the human populations, yeah, and some theory talking about human populations. So let me project my screen first. Okay, can you see my slide? Okay, so today we are going to look into the factors limiting the population size. Okay, now I want you to be aware that there are various theories talking about the limiting factors for the populations. However, you must know that even though the theory is saying so, but the fact is our human population is still on the growing side. Okay, and what are the causes of this growing populations? Why our population is still growing in spite of all this theory talking about the limiting factor and so on and so forth. Okay, now so the first theory talking about the limiting population size is physical factors. Yeah, limit or a law of limiting factors. Growth of a species is limited by least available resources in the ecosystem. That means if let's say you need water, you need oxygen, you need food and so forth in order to survive. Now, which out of the three, which one is the least available? If water is the least available resources, that means the availability of the resources or availability of water will limit the growth of a species. Because if you don't have enough water, then your species cannot survive, right? So this is growth of a species is limited by a least available resources in the ecosystem. Now, shortage of nutrient, light, and space. Plankton in ocean surface limited by lack of nutrients, even though there is plenty of water. The plankton, yeah, on the surface, there is a lot of water there. So also the sunlight also there, not a problem, but it's lack of nutrient. Okay, so this least available nutrients is a limiting factor for the plankton. Plankton in deep ocean, deep inside the sea, limited by lack of light. They have a lot of nutrients and water, but there is no sunlight. I shouldn't say there is no sunlight, there is lack of sunlight. So in that case, the factors that limit the growth of the plankton in the deep ocean is the least availability of light. Okay. So in the savanna region, lack of water limits the number of trees. In tropical forests, lack of sunlight limit the number of trees. Yeah. So in the on the physical factors, we are always talking about which resources is least available, and this least available resource will limit the growth of the populations. Then another one is the climate factor. Climate factor affect populations. Lower population when unfavorable climates is there. For example, if the climate is too hot or too dry, most of the land will the tree cannot grow there. They will become a desert. Okay, but if the weather is too cold or too dry, also then they become like Arctic or Antarctic. Okay, so all this condition is not suitable for the organism or human being to survive. So if one day, let's say our temperature become too hot, now it's global warming, right? If let's say it become really, really very hot, the heat wave can kill the human being also, even those we have aircon, but there are some poorer country, many people are killed by the heat wave. Okay, so the climatic factor is also affecting the populations. Disaster. Populations checks mean monitoring. Okay, population monitoring through volcano explosion. Let's say like the Krakatau in 1883, there is a big explosions, so it killed many people. Tsunami in the year 2004, many people were killed. Or disease. Okay, Great Plague of the Europe. If you remember that when we show you the population graph, that I say that there are two period there where the population slightly drop. That is due to the disease, right? So that is during the Great Plague of the Europe in 1347 to 53, and also earthquake. All these natural disaster will take the human life, will kill the human. So by killing human, then the human populations will be reduced. Okay, like now what happened is many people die of the pandemic, right? So in this case, the population size also reduces. Environmental factor. What are the environmental factor that is limiting the size of the physical, limiting the size of populations? Growth of one species may threaten another competitions for the same resource. Food, shelter, waste product may poison other species. What he say is, if let's say we have more than one species, and then all these species are looking for water, looking for oxygen, looking for food, and so forth, right? So these two species, they may fight with each other because they are compete with each other to have the resources, to have a water, to have oxygen and food. So in that case, the strongest will survive. The weak one will be uh, distinct. Yeah. So there is a competition for the same resources, food, shelter, or whatever. And sometimes the waste product, like the excrement of the animals, it could be poison to other species. So when other species get in touch with the waste product, they may poison and die. Okay, so this is the environmental factor. Predation is, as what I said just now, when the two species are fighting, the survival of the fittest, the one who's strongest, will survive. Yeah, not necessarily bad, because sick and unhealthy individual will only cause deteriorations of the whole species. In this case, the survival of the fittest or predations, from the moral side, we will say that it is no good. Okay, as human being, we always try to help the weakness, the weakest person. Okay, but in the eyes of the ecosystem, the sick one or the unhealthy one will cause deteriorations of the whole species. That's why if let's say the species that survive is only the fittest one, so they have an advantage. All those survive one are very healthy, are very strong, so there is an advantage. Yeah. So predations is not necessary that it is bad. Okay, but as a human being, we have our moral and ethical issue, so that we think that this one is bad. Okay, so we as a human being, we always try to help those weakest, or those incapable, or those chachat one. We always try to help them. Survival of the fittest will also ensure that the fittest, who will have the best chance of recovery, will survive when resources are limited due to disaster, right? So when there is a disaster, there is less oxygen, less water, or less food. Only those who are fittest, they can fight with each other, and then only the fittest can survive. Those who are weak or unhealthy one, they will die off. Okay, because not enough food or not enough water. So this is the environmental factor. Okay, what is the problem with the human population growth? Man has learned to master his fate and is less subject to dictates of nature. What does this sentence mean? This sentence mean we humankind, mankind, we have our knowledge, we have a science and technology. We can master our fate. For example, if let's say in a place that is not fertile enough, we cannot grow vegetable, we cannot grow plant or whatever. We have our technology to use the fertilizer to make the land fertile. Okay, and for example, if the eruptions of volcano before the volcano burst erupt, we have a technology that we already detected when the volcano will cause a problem. So we evacuate the people first. Okay, so that's mean the mankind using his knowledge in the science and technology so that it is not controlled by the nature. Instead, we are against the nature. Okay, we able to change his immediate or micro environment through use of machine technology and so change natural balance. So as what I mentioned just now, we can use the science and technology to change the mother's nature. Okay, that is the micro level. Yeah, through use of machine or technologies and so change the natural balance. Man has outgrown a lot of natural limitations. Technology is keeping humans survival viable. Without the technology, we don't have the what we say fertilizer, so we cannot grow vegetable. We cannot grow plants. Okay, but with the technology, with the fertilizer, we can grow. Okay, so this is outgrown a lot of natural limitations. When there is a flood, always there is a flood, we build a dam. Okay, or we do not have enough power, we do not have enough energy, we build dam, we have a hydroelectricity, we have a wind energy, and so on and so forth. So that's why, because of man, we always, even those the theory saying that there are certain limiting factors that limit the growth of the human being, limit the growth of the population of human being. But because we have a technology, we have a science, we have technology, so we have outgrown a lot of natural limitations. Yeah, that's why our size of population is still growing. However, technology fix may not be possible for macro environment. Now, whatever we are talking about when we use the technology to outgrow a lot of natural limitation, all this limitation is referring to the micro limitation, smaller disaster and smaller scale. Okay, but in the macro environment, in the big environment like global warming, this ozone hole and so forth, it is a bit hard for the human technology to counter that. Okay, so we are like now we are shouting for help. We are shouting that ask every country to reduce the produce of carbon dioxide level or whatever, but the global warming is still happening. Okay, vanishing of biodiversity is still happening. So in this case, bear in mind that what we can do to overcome is on the micro level, micro environment. On the macro environment, we need the whole world work together to cooperate to counter the macro environment issue. Okay, and whether it will be successful or not, which is still an unknown, still a question mark. Effect of populations on our environment. What is the effect on our environment? First is strain on land for habitations. Strain means give stress, okay? Because as a human being, we need land for our habitation, for our farm growth, for our house, for our shelter, and so forth. Okay, so this causing the land become less and less because we occupy all the lands for housing area or for farming and so forth. Growth of a mega city such as Mexico City and Kuala Lumpur or whatever. You just look at our KL city. Okay, how many lands are used for growing plants and so forth? There is no, isn't it? That's why we call it as a concrete jungle. Yeah. So there is a strain on the land. Strain on agriculture resources. The land and water for agriculture also become less and less. Why? Land we use it for shelter, water we use it for drinking water, or if not, our industry waste or whatever is polluting the water. So this make the water is not suitable for agriculture. So this also causing stress on agriculture resources. Strain on other resources or services. Beside the land and the agriculture side, we also causing strain or stress on other resources such as energy, raw material, and waste disposal. Energy, we do not have and most of the energy we use is a non-renewable energy, like fossil fuel and so forth. One day it will depleted, it will finish. One day our petroleum will finish. So what are we going to do then? Okay, raw materials like copper, like fossil fuel, all these are limited resources, and we produce waste. Human activity, we produce waste. produce a lot of waste. The waste not necessarily coming from the human excretions. Our technology, our factory produce a lot of wastewater, the waste or pollutant or whatever. So how are we going to dispose the waste? Okay, if we are not careful, all this way will cause harm to our Mother Earth. So this is a strain on other resources and service. Increase pollutions, increase agriculture, industrial pollutions, higher waste disposal. When we increase our human activity, as I mentioned earlier, pollution is caused by the human activities. It's not caused by the mother's nature. Okay, when we have a mining, we have an industrial activity. All these create pollutions. The waste. How are we going to dispose of waste? Okay, even those now we use a lot of IT gadget like the handphone, computer, or whatever. Now there is another new type of waste. It is increasing, become higher and higher, and seldom people trying to recycle it. This way is called e-waste. Have you heard about e-waste? Class, have you heard about e-waste?
Yes.
Yeah. So how are we going to do with the e-waste? They are using a certain expensive and toxic elements in the gadget. So how are we going to dispose of the waste? Or are we just throw it into the dustbin, or are we going to recycle it? So this one will causing the increase of pollutions. Okay, in human population increase. Population growth not related to resources. Major population growth centers in poorest country. What he say here is now the we just now in the limiting factor we say that the least available resources is controlling the population size, isn't it? But now in the actual fact, population growth is not related to the resources. In other words, the least available resources is not limiting the growth of population. Why? If we know that we don't have enough vegetable, we don't have enough plant, we have our technology to put in the fertilizer or hydroponic. Hydroponic means we plant the vegetable just using water. Okay, so in hydroponic we overcome the least available resources. So therefore, our population growth is not related to the resources anymore because of our knowledge in the science and technology. However, population growth is centered in the poorest country. Why? Why it is centered in the poorest country? Can someone answer? Can someone have an intelligent guess?
Yeah.
Why?
Um, Hard to say.
Sorry, I can't hear you. Can you speak louder?
I think the relationship is opposite. The
The
country is
relationship
poor
is
because
opposite. It,
too much people. They don't
the
have enough
country
resources.
is poor because of too many people.
Yes, because not enough resources for them.
Okay, right. And other people, other opinion. Don't forget in the poor country, their medical services are not so good, right? Those so the fatality or the mortality of the people are high, especially the young one, the baby mortality or whatever. Okay, so there are we talking about this old age insurance, isn't it? We need to ensure that our species can propagate. So that's why they have more and more children in the poor country because of the medical condition is not so good. Okay, so the second one, no natural predation, survival of the fittest. If animals, when they are short of resources, they are fighting with each other, and then only the strong creatures can survive, the fittest can survive. Okay, but in the mankind, in the society of our human being, advances in the medicine, healthcare, nutrition ensure survival of even the weakest. We do not fight with each other for natural resources. Instead, we are using our science and technology in medicine, in healthcare, and other area to help the weakest. So in that case, our population is still growing. Okay, you just imagine that if one lion is very ill, so who is going to take care of the lion? Nobody is going to take care of the lion or tiger, isn't it? So you will just let that and naturally you will die. But whereas a human being, if let's say one human being is very ill, what are we going to do? We'll immediately send him or her to hospital to let the doctor to save his life or her life, right? So in that case, there is is no natural predations and survival of the fittest. And another reason is also because of our moral or ethic values. Okay, we tend not to kill other people. We tend to help other people. So that's why the population size is growing. No check by natural disaster, very much reduced seismic predictions for earthquake, volcano, storm, advanced medicine for disease, and so on and so forth. There is no check, no monitor by the natural disaster. For animals, if let's say there is an earthquake or whatever, they cannot escape fast enough, they will be die. Okay, but as for human being, we have a technology to predict when will the earthquake be happening, when will be the tsunami or whatever. So in that case, we evacuate the people before the disaster happen. And also if let's say we have a disease, we also have an advanced medicine. Just like now, what happened to the COVID-19? COVID-19 is one of the natural disaster that there is a check, okay, tends to reduce the populations of human being. But you see, within 1 year or less, we already come out with the vaccine. So this vaccine will protect us from the attack by the COVID-19. So in that case, advanced medicine for disease will help us to survive, okay, even like AIDS or whatever. So there is no check by the natural disaster. Long-term population growth slow down. Now, the population growth is still going up and up. The number of population is higher, but the growth rate is slow down. Okay, especially for the developed country, the growth rate is the slope of a population growth graph is slower. The slope is slower. Human population not ecological balance. Artificial ecological not based on self-sustaining principles. Now human population is no longer follow the ecological homeostasis already. We have a lot of artificial ecology. Artificial ecology means we use scientific, we use technology, we use scientific knowledge to change our ecological system. For example, as I mentioned just now, if the land is not fertile, then we use uh, fertilizer to make it more fertile. If let's say the weather is too dry or we have a haze or whatever, we can have artificial rain. Okay, so this is artificial ecology. So in that case, the homeostasis that is naturally done by the uh, ecosystem is no longer valid as far as human being is concerned. Okay, up to here, any question? Okay, if
No
no,
No,
question.
sir.
yes.
No question.
No.
Okay, right. So this is yearly growth rate. This is not a population graph, is a growth rate. You can see that in 1960 plus, the growth rate is very high, but now the growth rate is dropping. Okay, mainly it's because people are aware that if the human population is oversized, if there is too many people, then our natural resources will cause us a problem, and also because of our medical condition is better already, so that we no need to have many children to ensure that our species is propagate. So this is the reason why the population growth rate is reducing. Reason for large number of children in poor third country. Why in the poor country is having a larger population growth? Why in the poor country is having more population as compared to the developed country? Yeah, let's say what is the reasons? Propagation of the species, as I mentioned just now, the old age insurance. Yeah, we have to make sure that our species can continue, can propagate. There are some we can have a next generations. Okay, and old age insurance due to lack of social welfare. The poorer country or the third world country, their social welfare is not so good. When their people become old, there is no people taking care of them. The system is not the government do not have a proper system to taking care of the old people, so they have to depend on their children to taking care of them. Okay, so that's why they need to have more children so they can taking care of them during the old age. This insurance is not mean by insurance of that we buy. It's not like what we buy life insurance or whatever. This insurance is only an adjective. Okay, it's talking about we just want to make sure that there is someone can take care of us when we grow old age. Lack of information resources for birth control. In the third world country, the education level may not be so high, so they do not have information or resources talking about the birth control. Let's say they use this birth control pill or the condom or whatever. Their knowledge is not there. Okay, so they do not know how to control the birth. Low or poor social status of women. In the third world country, generally, like some country like India or other countries, the status of woman is very low. Basically, the woman is stay at home, taking care of doing the house chore and then taking care of the children. They are not like Malaysia or developed country where women can go out to work. Okay, if women go out to work like in Malaysia, then the mother has no time to taking care of the children, so they cannot give birth to too many children. However, in the poorer country like Africa or this Indian, usually the women, they are not working in the office or whatever, so they are stay at home, so they can be a full-time mother, so they can taking care of many children. Cultural religious practices also, for certain religions, they are not allowed to have abortion. Okay, if you are pregnant, then you have to give birth to the children. You are not allowed to have abortions. Okay, and this has also causing the population to increase. Political and economical reasons. Sometimes we need to have more people to have the young generations to increase our economical activities. Yeah, or political reasons, because as we want to increase the populations of certain race or certain species in order to ensure that there is a propagation of the species. So in that case, we were encouraged to give birth to more people. Like Singapore, I think the old age people is more than the young age people, so they are encouraging the new couple to give birth to more children. Yeah. Demographic warfare. We will look at this later. What is a demographic warfare? Okay, this is a population bomb proposed by Paul Ehrlich in the 1968. The battle to feed all humanity is over. Okay, in the 1970s and 1980s, hundreds of millions of people were starved to death in spite of any crash programs embarked upon or now. At this late date, nothing can prevent a substantial increase in the world death rate. Okay, this is talking about we will have a shortage of resources. We may not have enough food or whatever, so that the death is spike is increased very sharp, and then uh, at this late stage, nothing can prevent a substantial increase in the world death rate. But this is it true? Is it happening now? It is not really true. Okay, the our human population is still growing. Okay, what does it mean by demographic transitions? There are three stages, okay, and sometimes the four stages. The stage one is high death rate, thus high birth rate. Okay, the first part is your rate of people dying is very high. Then at the same time, you also give birth to the new baby. The rate of giving birth to the new baby is also high. High death rate due to high infant mortality. Okay, infant mortality. This is one of the factor that causing the poor country to have more baby, to have more people, because they need to ensure that their old age insurance. They have to ensure that, for example, they give birth to 10 children, 10 babies, 8 will die when they are baby, because the medical condition is not so good. So only 2 survive. Only 2 can taking care of the old people, right? So in that case, if let's say the couple give birth to only 2 children, due to the high infant mortality, then when they become old age, there is nobody taking care of them, right? So this high death rate due to high infant mortality, poor medical conditions, and other facilities. Okay, and order to counter, how to overcome this one is counter by high birth rate to ensure some survival. That is why we give birth to many children, to many babies. Okay, and at this stage, when the birth rate and death rate is also high, both are high, population level stable, because birth rate and death rate is the same. The population level is stable. The growth rate is almost very stiff. The second stage is death rate lower, but birth rate is still high. That rate, why that rate become lower? Or that rate become lower because of improve in the medical and other facilities. So we have a better medical facility, we have a better medicine due to our science and technology. So we can save more life. So that's why the death rate is lower. The infant mortality also reduces. Old age people also be safe, and but no change in the birth rate, but the birth rate is still continue, is still very high. So at this second stage the population will increase rapidly, because you keep on giving birth to the baby, but the death rate is lower. Okay, less and less people die because of disease or whatever. So in this case your population will increase very sharp. Okay, if we have a population grow rate graph, you can see that the population is growing like that exponentially. So the third stage is the death rate low, birth rate drops. Okay, death and birth also drop. These two become lower. With realizations of that, their children will survive. Less need to have more children. Birth rate drop and population stabilizes. In this case, at this stage, people know that, oh, okay, now the with the advancement of medical facilities, and with the advancement of science and technology, we have more hygiene circumstances. Our infant mortality is dropping. Our infant most likely will be able to survive. So they realize that their children, they will survive. So they no need to produce so many children to taking care of them during the old age. Okay, so less need to have more children. And because of these realizations, the birth rate drops and population also stabilizes. Yeah, in this case, the birth rate and death rate is the same. Both also drop. Okay, what is the reasons that for population growth to slow down? Just now we mentioned that the population growth slow down, isn't it? Where is it? This graph, the population growth rate slow down. Okay, human population, long-term population growth rate slow down. What causes the population rate to slow down? Oh, sorry. Reason for population growth slow down. One, no need for large family. As we mentioned, the infant mortality rate reduces. Okay, so that they know that their children will be able to survive. So each family produce only 3 or 4 children is enough to taking care of them when they are old. Okay, so no need, unlike like last time when the infant mortality rate is very high, so they need to have more children. Okay, large family deemed necessary for propagation of species, better healthcare. One will survive as well as 10. Okay, if you produce 10 children, 10 children will all survive. Unlike last time, if we produce 10 children, 8 of them will die off. Okay, so now if you have only one children, it's also enough to taking care of the parents at old age. So no need for large family anymore. Awareness of population bomb. Now people with more education, they know that, they aware that overcrowding, increasing the material needs, then our resources will decrease. One day our resources will be depleting. So in order to have a better quality life, so that we produce less baby. Social development, equal right. Okay, now previously just now we saying that the woman is having a low status in the poor country, right? But now because of the civilization and so forth, we have more and more countries talking about equal rights between male and female. Okay, so female less content to stay at home, right to develop career, women liberations. Due to the women liberations movement, there are more and more women go to the office and work. Okay, not now the office work is not dominated by the male. Female also is working there. So once there is an equal right, the female is working. They're working same as the male, so they do not have so much time taking care of their children. So they just give birth to the children. The 1 or 2 will do. Okay, and general economy and social development also causing the uh, uh, population growth to slow down, because it is not so easy to grow to so many children. The cost is very high. So this is the graph showing you the demographic transitions. Okay, the black color one is the total populations. You can see that the total population, just now we say that the first stage where the birth rate and the death rate are also equally high. You see the red color one is the death rate, the blue color one is the birth rate. They are almost the same rate, right? So they are equally fast, and then your population is stable, not growing. Okay, and then when you go to the second stage of the demographic, where the birth rate is maintained, is still high, but the death rate is reduces, the infant mortality and old age people dying is reduces. So this one is the birth rate is still maintaining, and then there is a sharp increase in the human populations. You see the growth rate. Growth rate means the flow, the slope of this graph. And then the third stage, mature stage, in the industrial mature stage, is still your birth rate drop, your death rate also drop, but somehow rather the birth rate is still higher than the death rate. So it is the population size is still growing. And at the stage 4, the post-industrial grade, where people are aware about the population bomb, and then they know that their children is can survive throughout the can survive until old age, so that they no need to have such a big family. The both the birth rate and death rate are almost the same, and then the population are stable. Okay, this is same as the first stage. Okay, the first stage is both birth rate and high and death rate are high, but this fourth stage is birth rate and death rate are low. Okay, so this one the population is maintaining. So this is the another graph, almost same as just now that one. Okay, this one is the birth rate. The red color is the birth rate. You can see that at the stage 2, it is very high. Then after that, stage 3, when people are more educated, they know how to control the birth, they know how to use a condom or the abortions technology or whatever. So the birth rate is dropping. Okay, and then if let's say one day is dropped below the that rate, then in that case our population will drop, population size will drop. Okay, this is another population change in the Mexico from 1895 to year 2000. You can see that initially the birth rate is very high, okay, almost maintained, yeah, and only after 1975 there is a sharp drop in the birth rate. There is people controlling the birth rate. The death rate is all this while is reducing. Okay, and this part is increasing because birth rate is high, but death rate is reducing. So the population is increasing, and now it's still increasing. Yeah. This one is the graph that I showed you just now. The drop of population growth rate. Yeah, the growth rate is dropping. I've shown you before. And this one is the annual world population change. The annual change every year, how much it changed. Yeah, okay, from 1950 to 2050. Okay, population growth and sustainable development. What does that mean? That level of populations of consumption pattern and the nature of technology are the 3 major factors which determine the effect of development of the environment. The level, there are three factors, okay, that is determine the effect of development on our environment. The first is talking about populations, our level of population size, how we consume the pattern of the consumption pattern, how we consume the raw material, how we consume the energy, and also the technology that we have. These 3 factors are determine the effect of our development on the environment. Populations, and then the way we consume the raw material or the energy, and also our nature of technology, the level of our technology. These are the 3 main factors that govern the development on environment. Growth of world population and productions combined with unsustainable consumption patterns places increasing severe stress on the life supporting capacity of our planet. What they say here is the growth of world populations and productions combined, okay, with unsustainable consumption pattern. That's why our world population is keep on increasing, and we do not control our consumptions of raw material, whatever, unsustainable. That means it is not sustainable. So one day it will finish. Okay. So if our population become higher and higher, more and more people, and we use more and more material, use more and more resources, then this increase a severe stress on the life supporting capacity of the planet. Our life supporting capacity can be water, can be land, can be oxygen, and so forth. So this causing the life supporting capacity of our planet being strained or being stressed. Okay. The ultimate goal is the improvement of the quality of life of present and future generations. This is sustainable development. Okay. Sustainable development is talking about the ultimate goal is the improvement of the quality of life of the present and future generations. The objective is to facilitate the demographic transitions as soon as possible in countries where there is an imbalance between demographic rates and social, economy, and environmental goal. While fully respecting human rights, this process will contribute to the stabilizations of the world populations and together with the changes in unsustainable pattern of production and consumption to sustainable development and economic growth. Okay, so this one is talking about what is the sustainable development. What we want is we have an improving of our quality of life at now, but we also have taking care of the improvement of quality of the life of the future generations. We want the future generation enjoy whatever we are enjoying now. Okay, so in this case we need to have the demographic transitions from stage 2 to stage 3 or stage 4 as soon as possible. Okay, so this is just a figure. No, don't go and memorize a figure. Okay, if you want, you just look at which one is the highest, which one is the lowest. Okay, in 1968 the highest population is China, 730. Okay, so this one is a growth rate, the GDP growth rate. Just for your information, you no need to memorize all this figure. This one is also the GDP. Okay, this one is the growth rate of human being until 21,000 year. Okay, 2100 year. You can see that initially the human population are quite stable, right? And then there is a drop here during the plague, the disease in the Europe. Then after that, the growth rate become very high and almost a sharp, almost 90-degree increase. Okay, and it haven't reached the stage 4 of demographic yet. This one is between year 1750 until 2020, 2200 in billions. Okay, you can see that we already reached 7 billion now, and then we are going to reach more 10 million, 10 billions in year 2100. Okay, there's a few more years to go. And then after that, we foresee that because of the educations, because of the medical facilities or whatever, that excuse me, okay, so due to the education's level and so on and so forth, so the death rate and the birth rate is the same, and then the size of population will stabilize. Okay, so this is what we want. This is what we are predicting. Okay, other considerations beside number, beside the population size, what other things that we need to consider? Okay, population distributions, geographical area. Where is this? Which area there are more people? Which area there are less people? Obviously, those fertile lands, those land that have water, tree, or whatever, will have more populations. Like in middle of Australia or this desert area, there is less population distributions. Okay, so population distribution we also need to consider. Like city, all these are very high population, very crowded. Certain area like desert, there is less populations. Okay, population distribution also talking about demographic. What is the age structure? As just now I say, certain country have more old age people, certain country have more young age people. So what will happen to their economy in the later year? Okay, and male and female compositions. Is there any country have more male as compared to female? If let's say this happened like China last time, there is one child policy. They are, because of the Chinese traditional belief, they prefer male rather than the female. Okay, so in that case, they have more male than female. So in what happened to the society later when they grown up? They're very difficult to find wife. Okay, poverty gap in the especially in the poor country, the rich will become very rich, the poor will become very poor. So the gap is very high. Okay, this one we also need to consider. And then technology gap. What is the technology level in a different country? Aging population is a population become old age. They have more old people than the young people. If this is the case, after 10 years, then all your old age people that pass away, then your young generations can able to take up the responsibility or not. Populations decline. There are some developed country, the number of people is reducing because they give the birth rate is low. Like in Malaysia, the Chinese population is declining, yeah, become lower and lower because we are tends to have a small family instead of big family. So this graph is showing this atlas is showing which part of the world there is a highest populations here. Okay, this is a demographic showing the age. Okay, on the left hand side here, this one is the male. Okay, is the male, and then on the right hand side here is the female populations. Okay, and then this vertical y-axis is the age. You can see that in Mexico in 1980, okay, the old age people is less. The young age people is more. There is more young people. Okay, there's no it shouldn't be any problem. And when you go to 1998, 10 years later, it's still almost the same pattern, okay? But the middle-aged people are slightly more. And if you look at Sweden in 1989, the middle-aged people is more than the young people, okay? And Sweden, 1998, this is the shape, okay? And Italy, the middle-aged people is more than the young people. Okay, if the government does not change the policy to encourage more to give birth to more babies or whatever, sooner or later this graph will shift up. You will have a more old age people and less young age people. Then your population is aging. Okay, Italy and Mexico. This one 1980 I've showed you before. Okay, you just look at this part. This is French. Okay, this is French one. I don't have the year. I forgot to put out the year. So you see at this part, male is more than female, so it's imbalance. Yeah, and in India, the old age people is slightly more than the second last one, and it's almost equal. Male and female is almost equal. Yeah, and they have many new young age people. Okay, so in French, this one, if let's say the government didn't change the policy, sooner or later, when this group of people here grow old age, then it will become inverted pyramid if less young age people. Okay, this one is just a survival graph, I think. This one is showing the stabilization ratio where the birth rate divided by the death rate. Okay, you look at those South Africa and Central America. So let's look at the developing country first. Developed country is an advanced country, like first world country like US, UK. So their birth rate is almost stable. Okay, and slightly declining lah. Okay, it's more stable. Those birth rate increasing one is usually is a poor country like Africa. Look at it's increasing. Okay, so but we are foresee later in 2025 it will reducing. The Asia also increasing, but now it start reducing. Yeah. Okay, this is another graph showing you the different countries about their population in millions. Yeah, you can see that now the highest population is China, but in year 2025 or 2026 later, the India will overtake China. Okay, there is a intercept here. India will overtake China in terms of populations. Yeah, but whereas the US, Pakistan, the Indonesia, the rate is almost flattened already. Okay, up to here before we go to the problem of using the natural resources. Any question? Any question, class? Okay, if no question, then we continue. These problems related to the natural resources is also happen to the usage of energy problem. Okay, this problem is the same as the usage of natural resources is the same problem as the usage of energy. Yeah, whatever we discussed in the past few slides is also applicable to the energy problem. Okay, both renewable and non-renewable resources. With non-renewable resources problem of depletions and scarcity, use of both types have different levels of environmental effects. Non-renewable resources produce more serious effect generally. Usage of resources associated with energy. What does it mean? Now, in this case, the problem that we use natural resources is because we are using both renewable and non-renewable resources. So when we use the non-renewable resources, one day it will be depleting. Okay, if we use renewable resources, doesn't matter. But the problem is it is not really balanced. Okay, we use non-renewable resources more than renewable, and these non-renewable resources, for example, like fossil fuel, yes, we can say that it can form naturally, but it takes million years to form. Okay, so we are going to have a depletion of resources one day. So with non-renewable resources, problem of depletion or scarcity will happen. Okay, that's mean one day we will use up all our non-renewable resources. Yeah, use of both type have different levels of the environmental effect. The renewable resources and non-renewable resources has a different effect, different this pollution effect on the environment. Okay, non-renewable resources produce more serious effect generally. If we are use non-renewable energy, generally it produces more harmful effect, yeah, as compared to renewable resources. And usage of resources also associated with the energy. That's why we say that this problem is also is a problem to use natural resources. Is the same as the problem we use energy. Yeah. Okay, now we are talking about Malthus theory. Malthus theory is a theory that talking about the human population and the resources. Let's see what is in the Malthus theory. Malthus theory, he observed that he found out that uh, let project all first. Okay, in the observation, he observed that why human being is having a fast population growth. That is because human is passion between sexes. Okay, people like to have sex. Once we have sex, that means we are going to produce a baby. All right. So there is a fast population growth is because of the passion between sexes, and people need food to survive. This is two observations that made by them. If we like sex, then we are going to have a fast population growth, and when we have a people, then we need food to survive. Okay, and power of population growth, there is no limit. Okay, the population growth, there is no limit, but increase in the food supply, there is a physical limit. So in other words, the population will keep on growing and growing, but the food will grow and grow, but after that there is a physical limit. So the food cannot be growing for forever. Yeah, and then the logical argument is saying that the population growth is geometrical, exponential. Okay, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, like that. Whereas the growth rate of food supply is linear. Arithmetic rate growing of food supply is 2, 4, 6, 8, increase steadily. Okay, it's not exponentially. And population reaches a limit of food supply. What they say that is the population will keep on growing until there is a limit where there is not enough food supply. Then the population will have no more increases possible. Okay, because the population cannot exceed the food supply. This is same as what we mentioned just now. The population size is limited by the least available resources, isn't it? If let's say now the food can only supply for 10%, so the 11% will die of hunger, the 12% will die of hunger, so that there is only 10% will survive. Okay, until one day our food supply is enough to supply for 20%, then our population will increase again up to 20%. If when you reach 20%, the food is almost exhausted, is almost finished, then the 21, 22, 23, and so 4% will be die of starving. There are not enough food. Okay, and according to the Malthus theory, when our population increases so high, there is always a check on population. There is always a control on the populations. There are two different type of control of population. One is a positive, one is a preventive. Okay, the positive check is increased death rate through famine, hunger, disease, and war. Okay, he say that if our population is become very high, the war will happen because we are fighting for food. Okay, we are fighting for natural resources. You just think about it. Besides terrorism, last time during the old age, why there was a war happening? Mainly the war happened is because they want to fight for resources. Okay, and also disease like now the pandemic, and people will die for hunger because not enough food. So these are the positive check, yeah, which will increase the death rate through famine, disease, and war. And there is also a preventive check, preventive actions that taken by human being, that is to decrease birth rate through the late marriage, so we don't have marriage so early. Like the Chinese nowadays, they married at a quite a old age, 30 over years old. Okay, and in some countries, the marriage take place at a very young age, around 18, 19, they already marriage. Okay, by 20, they already become father and mother already. So there is a preventive or the of the birth rate. Then is through late marriage, to have a smaller family, um, to have wives, including prostitution, adultery, or homosexuality. Or even though this wives we do not like it, it is not a good word. Okay, but in the facts, in actual facts, it is help to prevent the population growth. Okay, so including the prostitutions, when because people are passion between sexes, all right? So if they go for prostitutions, they are not going to give birth to a baby. Okay, adultery and homosexuality, although these three are not really acceptable by the what we say, the society, due to the moral or cultural or religion or legal issue, but these three are one of the way to prevent the increase of birth rate. Okay, now, the core principle of Malthus theory, he said that food is necessary for human existence, which is very true. Without food, how can we survive? Okay, human population, if not checked, if not monitored by the check is like just now we're talking about the positive check and preventive check. Okay, if there is no check, tends to grow faster than the power in the earth to produce subsistence. If there is no check, if there is no disaster, there is no war, there is no late marriage or whatever, the growth rate will be faster than the earth that can produce a substance for us to use. Okay, the effect of these two unequal power must kept equal. What he mean is the population grow and the growth of the food must be equally fast or equally slow. Okay, if one is, what happen if the population grow is faster than the population grow of food, then we will die of hunger. People will fight for this what we say food, and then the war will happen. Okay, but if what happen if, let's say, the food is growing faster than the people, then our population will still growing. Okay, misery is the mechanism that balance a human requirement and available resources. This is a misery. How are we going to balance this? Nature's requirement that imbalance between demand and supply be solved form of strongest obstacle in the way of any very great improvement of society, and thus make the perfectibility of man and society a theoretical and practical impossibility. Okay, nature's requirement that the imbalance between the demand and supply be resolved. The demand is the food that need by the human being, and then the supply is how fast the uh, mother's nature can grow can supply us with the food. Is resolved by the strongest obstacle in the way of any very great improvement of the society. It's on the science and technology. Okay, the principle of populations, that is inevitability of misery due to power of populations to overwhelm resources, provide the mainspring behind the advance of human civilizations by creating incentive for progress. Yeah. So these are the core principle of Malthus theory. Okay, Malthus theory discredited due to what happened? Population growth. Population did increase over time. What Malthus theory say is population growth cannot exceed the growth rate of food. If the food is, supply of the food is not enough to supply for the population, the population will be stabilized. But the actual fact is that population did increase over time, but not at the high rate as he predicted. Okay, with affluence, better survivability, emancipations of women liberations, the preventive check did kick in because we have a preventive check. Okay, next, food supply increased much faster than he predicted because we have the better technology to make irrigations, the watering. We have a better technology to produce a fertilizer and so forth, so that the food supply increasing much faster than what Malthus predicted due to better technology of food productions, the invention of machine to help agricultures, better irrigation technique, all this making the food supply become faster. Okay, this is the graph that's showing the productivity gain in some stable crops in the has been dramatically. You can see that the wheat is increasing very fast. Okay, the rice is also around 50 over percent. Yeah, the change between 79 to 94. So this due to the thanks to the technology, the agriculture sector is improving very fast. Okay, before we go to depletion of resources, any question? Let's take a break of 10 minutes. Then we come back at what is the time now?
1:05.
11:05. Okay, let's come back at 11:15. Go
Okay.
for a toilet break. Go and wash your face. Okay, is everybody back? Right, let's continue. Okay, depletion of resources. Now, when we're talking about resources, there are two different types. Okay, depends on which angle we look at it. We can say natural resources or not renewable resources or non-renewable resources. But the definitions that we are talking about here is the resources that we know and then the unknown resources. Okay, that's mean, for example, there let's say in Thai UC. Okay, we do not know that deep down in Thai UC land there is a lot of full of petroleum or fossil fuel. That is called unknown resources. Okay, but if let's say in the what petroleum is trying to cari gali one, that one is a known resource. Okay, now resources are finite. Whether known or unknown resources, they are finite. That means they will be one day they will be finished. Okay, depletion rate proportion to the consumption rate. How fast the resources being consumed, being finished is depending or proportional to the how fast we consume it. Okay, the faster we consume the natural resources, the faster it deplete. Known sources can be extended by, but how about those known sources? That means we know the resources that we know there are, for example, the fossil fuel or whatever. How can we extend the or prolong the lower down the depletion rate? The known sources can be extended by new discovery. Okay, that's when you go and find out other unknown to known. That's when you go and find other places where originally we suspect there is no petroleum, but eventually we find out, actually that place there is a petroleum. Okay, so that's when it's a new discovery, find out a new place where originally we doesn't know that there is got a reservoir or have a raw resources there, but eventually we find out that the place is rich of natural resources. Okay, better extraction technology. If we use technology, we have less waste, more efficient technology, then we can get more yield. Okay, so better extraction technology. Function of price, that also depending on the price. If the price is high, what will happen? If the price is low, what will happen? Okay, if the price is low, then people may not want to have may not want to sell all those resources, isn't it? So in that case, if no people selling resources, that means there is no mining. Yeah, consumption and the depletion of resources affected by, what are the factors that impact or affect the consumption and depletions? There is a population growth. That definitely, the more people growing, the more people, the more consumption it is. Okay, and the more consumption it is, the faster the depletion rate. Pattern of consumption. How do we consume? Like now, let's say we, after the invention of plastic, we have this disposable mentality. Before our government impose a 20 cents per plastic bag, everybody use a plastic bag and then throw it away. Use a plastic bag, throw it away. Okay, so this type of pattern of consumption of plastic bag causing a lot of depletions of petrochemical, because plastic is a byproduct of a petroleum. Okay, and economy grow. The fastest the economy grow, that means your activity, your manufacturing activity, your human activity is also growing, right? Also have a faster activity, have more activity. So when you have more activity, that means you are going to use up more resources. Yeah, and when you use up more resources, the depletion rate will be increases. Substitute recycling. Okay, do we have a substitute for the material or not? If we have a substitute of material, then the natural resources that originally we use, we tend to use less, and then we switch to the substitute. And when we use less raw material, then the consumption rate or the depletion rate will reduce. For example, is a copper wire. Last time when before we have this optical fiber, all the telecommunication is using a copper wire, right? So there is one day until there is a shortage of a copper wire. Okay, and the shortage of copper wire has forced scientists to go into the lab to discover, to invent a substitute for copper wire. That is the outcome is the optical fiber. And nowadays we use optical fiber instead of copper wire. So the life or the depletion rate of copper, it reduces, okay? Because we have a substitute already, or we're recycling like plastic bottle. Do you are aware that the mineral water bottle, the PET bottle, right? We can recycle it and make into blanket, okay? Look like a textile. So we can recycle it or reuse it. So these are some of the way how can we extend the uh, uh, not extend the affect the consumption and depletions of the resources. Yeah. And then another one is technology. Hey, can you see my slide?
No, sir.
I think I accidentally pressed the wrong button. Okay, okay. I pressed the wrong button, sorry. Oh, okay, so these are the factors that are affecting the resources, yeah? Okay, next. Limit to growth. This is another theory. Okay, this is very interesting theory. Okay, we can say this is theory. We also can say that it is a predictions lah. All right, limits to growth. It is happening in 1972 when there is an international think tank. That means a group of people called the Club of Rome. Okay, this group of people, Club of Rome, is led by the lady professor. Commission a study on the use of depleting resources and their impact on the world when such resources run out. Okay, their task is to study what are the non-renewable resources that we are using, the depleting of the resources, and what will happen when all these resources are depleting, when the world have no run out of such resources, what will happen to our life. Okay, so they are using a lot of simulations made by using a computer available in the MIT. Yeah, there is a lot of simulations. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it's over 100, more than 100 simulations or different conditions. Okay, if let's say this happened, A happened, what will happen to the natural resources? If B happened, what will happen to the natural resources, and so on and so forth. So it influenced by the fuel cell crisis in the of the 70s. This study is because it's carried out because it influenced by the fuel cell, the fossil fuel crisis. But in the 1970s, we are worried that one day we will be running out of the fossil fuel, okay? And also the growing population as documented in the population bomb. So the population bomb and the fossil fuel crisis has triggered the study of these limits to grow, okay? The name of the study is the limits to grow. And is led by a lady professor. The group of people that is doing this simulation is called Club of Rome. Like Malthus theory, population growth or survival is only possible to the extent that is supported by necessary resources for survival, and that a growing population and a limited and decreasing resources availability will put strain on and ultimately lead to a reduction of population to the extent that the remaining resources can support. So what this theory say is also quite similar with the theory of Malthus theory. What he say is that the population grow or population survive is only possible provided we have enough resources to support. Okay, and we will reach a limit if, let's say, a limit or decreasing of resources availability will put a strain on it and ultimately lead to a reduction in the population. So when we have reached a limit where the natural resources is no longer available, and then we are causing a reduction of populations. Yeah. So this is the limits of growth written in 1972. 30 years later, they have published another limits to grow beyond 30 years. Or the conclusion is almost the same. Yeah. Commissions by Club of Rome to investigate long-term causes and consequences of growth in population, industrial capital, food production, resource consumption, and pollutions. So they are looking into not like Malthus theory, looking into the food and human populations, they are looking into more variable, including the industry capital, food production, resources consumption, and also they're also looking into pollutions. Yeah. So what are their findings? Their finding is population grow high leading to high populations number. This is common now. Your population grow in a high rate, then you have high populations number. Consumption of resources, food, and growing higher and higher rate, higher populations. Okay, when your higher population is higher, your consumption of resources and food become higher. Resources are finite and limits will reach soon. So whatever we are using today, we will reach the limit soon. Okay, very fast we will reach the limit. When limit reach, drastic fall in industrial capacity and populations. When we reach the limit already, the limit of resources, there is a fast fall or fast drop in the industrial capacity and population. Why there is a fast fall? Because we do not have raw material for our industry to produce. Okay, and we don't have the raw material of food or whatever to support the population. That's why after the limit is reached, then the population will drop. Okay, so the conclusion of this study is if the present growth trend in the world population, industrialization, pollution, food productions, and resource depletions continue unchanged, the limits to grow on this planet will be reached sometime within the next 100 years from 1972. Okay, what he say that if we still consume the so much energy, we still consume so much food or whatever, we still waste so much food, our industrial activity is still increasing, sooner or later our resources will be depleted, will finish off. Okay, they are foresee that within the next 100 years from 1972. Okay, the most probable result will be a sudden and uncontrollable decline in both population and in industrial capacity. Because without sufficient resources, industrial capacity will fall, leading to inability to support existing population numbers, leading to food shortage, civil unrest, civil war, and so forth. Okay. So what you say that is, if we do not have enough we do not have enough resources to supply for the industry. For example, if you are in the canned food manufacturing, right? You do not have enough resources to produce your canned food. So your canned food is insufficient to support the existing population number. Then people will die for hunger, right? And then this will lead to the food shortage. When the food shortage is reaches, then people will fight for food. And when people fight for food or natural resources, the civil war will happen. Okay, the positive check will kick in. Limits to grow predicted critical shortage of key resources. So what are the key resources? Energy, key metals like copper, steel will run out by end of 20th century. Okay, by end of 20th century, the key metals like copper, our copper is almost running out already. Okay, steel we still have, and pollutions would have severe impact on industrial and habitability considerations. The pollution will become more and more serious. Yeah, it will impact our industry and also our survival. The world will not be able to support the population due to the lack of these key resources and deprivations due to pollutions. Okay, the world that we are live in is no longer able to support our populations. Yeah, because of we are shortage of food, shortage of natural resources, and the pollution is become higher and higher. Okay, so these are the three key factors that limit the proposed by limits to grow, written by Club of Rome. So this is the chart that they have put it in. This is one of the chart that they have produced. You can see that when this is the natural resources. When the natural resources originally is stable, but when the populations increases, this red color one is population increases, the natural resources depleted. Okay, the natural resources are depleted, and in the industrial output also increases. Yeah, industrial output increases because we population increases. We need the industry support. Okay, so when we reach a stage where the oil production increases, when we reach a stage where the fossil fuel is depleting, it is no longer available so much, they will drop. Okay, once the fossil fuel drop, the industrial activity also drop. Okay, this tiny line here, industrial activity also drop. Okay, and once the industrial activity drop, our populations also drop. We collapse. Okay, our population collapse, and the world natural resources is keep on dropping as time goes. Yeah, whenever our population is increasing, then the natural resources will be depleting. Okay, and because of the industrial activity increasing, the pollution also increases. Okay, so it will increase until the industrial activity reduces. The industrial activity reach the point here, reach the maximum point here, and then start reducing. And once the human activity or industrial activity reduces, then the pollution also reduces. Yeah. So this is one of the scenario when the population will collapse. Yeah. Okay. But there is another scenario is what will happen if, let's say, the population does not collapse, is keep on increasing. So what will happen? Okay. So there are two scenarios here. So you can see that if our population keep on increasing, our natural resources, food is keep on depleting, right? And the industrial activity and also the pollution will keep on increasing until it reach the maximum limit, and then after that they will drop. Yeah, our pollution also drop after the industrial activity drop. So this whole graph summarize out the conclusion made by limits to grow, the study done by the Club of Rome. And the next graph is showing you the resources that the known resources. Okay, in the type of resources, like you see that there is no copper, that the resources is quite low already. Yeah, now we find more resources as compared to 1953, 1950 and in 1983, but it is less already as compared to chromite. Okay, reason for continual availability of resources. Why we say that the resources are finite, the resources are going to deplete soon, but why sometimes we still find that, hey, how come we still have the resources to use? So what are the reasons that the resources is still available? Okay, so these are the factors that we have just now we have discussed. What are the factors that are affecting the availability or consumption of resources? The first one is better prospect or extracting technology. We have mentioned just now, if our extraction technology is much more efficient, then we can get more oil, we can get more resources, less waste being used. Okay, so there is a better prospecting or extractions technology, such as we are using satellite imaging to find out where there is a prospect, where there is a oil field and so forth. Okay, sea drilling. Last time we do not have a technology to have a deep sea oil drilling, but now we have this technology. So that's why we find out more unknown natural resources to become a known natural resources. Okay, and then the usage of the our let's say electrical appliances or our vehicle or whatever, it is more efficient usage. Okay, because we have a better technology. So like now, if you buy this what they say, like you buy refrigerator or aircon or whatever, there is a star rating, isn't it? Whether your refrigerator is 3-star or 5-star. Yeah, that is talking about the green refrigerator or green aircon. That is 5-star. It can preserve more energy, use less energy. Okay, and also development of alternative products. For example, like the optical fiber or fiber optic is used to replace copper. Okay, and in order to replace steel, there is those material student. You should know that there are many composite material is invented to replace metal part. Okay, let's say now if you look at now the bicycle frame, okay, those racing bicycle frame, it is very light. It's no longer using steel. They are using a fiber. They are using composite. Helmet. What is the best material for producing helmet? What is a material that is strong enough to resist the impact? Definitely it's metal, isn't it? But if you use metal, what will happen? Your helmet become very heavy, right? And during the hot day, your helmet will become very hot. During raining day, your helmet will become cold. So it's not comfortable to use. So people are using alternative material that is composite. That is a fiberglass plus the resin. Is basically is a plastic, okay, plus a fiberglass, which is very light, and then it have a toughness is comparable to the matter. Okay, so this is the development of alternative product. And then the last one is we have to think of a way how can we recycle the material. Okay, recycle the material, extensive reuse or old stock instead of exhausting the virgin stock. So let's say like the plastic material. Now there are many people are recycling the PET bottle. Okay, they convert it into the fiber textile. They are recycling. Okay, and the e-waste, there are such people are starting aware about the danger of e-waste because keeping increasing on a daily basis. So there are people looking into how to reduce the e-waste. Yeah. So this one is just a diagram. Okay, pollutions. Okay, before we go to pollution, any question about the natural resources and human populations? Okay, if no, then we continue. Pollution. What is pollution? Pollutions are, we define pollution as any substance which may adversely affect our possessions or our belonging or our life and or damage or deny us the proper use of the environment. Okay, it is any substance, anything that you adversely affect our belonging or our life is called pollutant. Okay, pollutant and pollution are two different things. Pollutant is an element that causing a pollutions. A pollutant can be in a solid form, like the haze. Okay, it can be in a liquid, like acid or this polluted river water. It can be a gas like carbon dioxide. It can be a vapor form and others. Okay, as far as it is any substance that can cause adverse effect or negative impact on our life, it is considered as a pollutant. Generally results from the human activities in form of the unwanted byproducts and waste. Okay, generally it is coming from human activities. In other words, who create pollutions? Human being. Okay, human being created a human activity like industrial activity, driving of car and so forth. All this activity created a unwanted byproducts and waste. Okay, aliens to a subtract not always intrinsically and dangerous substances. Okay, it is not always intrinsically it is dangerous or a substance. Sometimes it is not dangerous. Okay, this is only a coal power plant in Negeri Sembilan. Just to see the seaside here is polluted. Okay, what is a key effect of pollutions? The water is unfit for drinking. If you have polluted your river, the water is unfit for drinking. Not no good for you to cleanse your body. Bathe is no good for agriculture. As a result in disease, stunt grow, poor agriculture output and famine. Okay, once your water is unfit for drinking, it may create a disease. Okay, how many times we are saying that we drink unclean the water that is dirty water, and then we cause a stomach ache and so forth. Right, and then it is not suitable to use for agriculture, so we have a poor agriculture. What happened when poor agriculture of output happen? Famine will happen. That means shortage of food will happen. Okay, extreme level of air contaminations. What will happen? Just now we're talking about water, but if air contamination, the respiratory sickness. Okay, our lungs will be affected. We have a haze from Indonesia, right? So when we have a haze, those people with asthma or respiratory disease, they are suffering more than the healthy person. Okay, so it's air contamination or global warming. This is the contamination of air. Growing quantities of hazardous and other waste requiring proper disposal. Definitely, if we are the pollutant is increases, we need a proper disposal. How are we going to propose it? The best way is to reduce the it's not to dispose the waste. The best way is to reduce the generation of waste. waste requiring proper disposal, improper disposal causing problem, running out of a safe disposal dump. Okay, for example, let's say the plastic we need to recycle it, then it will be better to recycle it or landfill. If you just simply throw the plastic waste into the seaside or into the sea or river, or you just dump it into the drain, it will go down into the river, then from river it go down to the sea, then it will affect the aquatic life. Yeah. How many times have you seen the picture that people showing you a turtle or whatever is harmed by a plastic waste, yeah, or the animals, yeah, because or when they cut open the stomach of a fish or whatever, they find out that in the stomach is full of plastic waste. Okay, so that's why we need a proper disposal. Improper disposal may causing problem. Devastation of agricultural lands and ecosystem. Yeah, this is what our human being is doing now. Okay, cause of pollutions. What are the cause of pollution? The first thing is a human lifestyle, our activity. Biological waste, domestic, hospitals, domestic, biological waste referring to the domestic waste and also hospital waste, yeah. Like you have a surgery or whatever. So what are the waste? Okay, domestic waste is a throwaway mentality. That is because a lot of things like the plastic bag after use one time, actually it can be reused, but we just throw it away. Okay, we buy something and then after that throw it away, not really use it. And recreation sometimes also causing land pollutions. Why? Like golf course, forest into wild. Like golf course, we need a big piece of land, isn't it? Right? We chop down the trees or whatever to make it into a golf course. So we need a piece of land. This create a strain on the land. Yeah. And agriculture, slash and burn, when we want to clear a land to make it suitable for agriculture, then we slash and burn the land. Excessive use of fertilizer, yeah, because we want the plant to grow faster, we use excessive fertilizer. Don't forget all these fertilizer are chemicals. Yeah, we are adding it is not a natural fertilizer. We are adding chemicals into the land, so one day it may cause a problem to the land. Or we want to avoid from the insect from harming our plant or our agriculture plant. So we use excess of pesticides. Okay, when you use excess of pesticide, again, this one is toxic. Okay, it may harm the vegetable or the land even. Industrial activity. This is the main. I would say that among the three, this one is the main producer of pollutant. Extractions of resources. We go for mining to extract the resources. Okay, air pollution, removal of topsoil, crop cover, exposure of the sulfur-based soil. This causing excessive acidic of soil. Once the soil becomes acidic, then it's no longer suitable for agriculture. So this is the graph showing the sulfur dioxide in versus the number of years. Okay, you can see that this one is reducing. Okay, the people aware that the sulfur dioxide is a pollutant, so they take effort to reduce the emissions of sulfur dioxide, and then it is reducing now. Okay, it is a very good trend. Okay, smoke also, people realize that there is pollutants, so people are taking effect. Since 19th century, it start reducing. So we have a cleaner air as compared to 1750 or 1850. Okay, in industrial resources, processing, manufacturing, resources for processing and manufacturing. Okay, use of hazardous raw material such as toxic pesticide and volatiles content binder in paint. Okay, so when we in our industrial processes, we tend to use a lot of raw material that which can be which is not safe or not natural, which can be harmful to the environment. Okay, for example, like we are using the paint, we're using a lot of organic solvent, right? So this organic solvent, it can cause air pollutions. Yeah. Even in the lab, we're also using toluene, we're using the methyl ethyl ketone, MEK. All this can also evaporate into the air and causing the air pollutions. Yeah. So in industry, we use a lot of hazardous raw material. And use of hazardous material in process, like copper cyanide in electroplating. Electroplating, when, for example, a piece of a plastic, after we electroplate it, it looks like a metal, a shining surface. Okay, this one use a lot of copper cyanide, which is very poisonous. Yeah, sodium cyanide and mercury in gold processing. When we produce a gold, process a gold, we need to use mercury and sodium cyanide. Use of hazardous material in washing, such as a CFC in the electronic industry. Now, I think we cut down the use of CFC already because it is causing the ozone hole. Okay, solvent in printing industry. Why solvent is using in printing industry? Because the ink, okay, the ink need to be able to flow. And what makes the ink to flow? The ink basically is, let's say if it is black color, is consisting of a carbon powder. Okay, so we need to make the ink to flow. So we need use a solvent. Just like paint. If paint without solvent, that is a solid. Then how are you going to paint it? Right? So you need to make it fluid so that it can flow. And then in order to make it fluid, you need to use solvent. And most of the solvent used is organic solvent that is harmful to the environment. Okay, and there is some industry, they are trying to use, instead of solvent, they try to use water-based paint or water-based adhesive. Okay, but it is not so successful. Have you seen the this pesticide that is used water? There is one we use to kill mosquito. One is called H2O, isn't it? Right? That is a water base. Yeah. If you use Baygon or Shelltox, after you spray, you go and touch it. This is very oily. Right? That is not a water base. But if you use the one with the brand H2O, I'm not sure still available or not. It is a water base. Yeah? Hazardous intermediate final byproducts. During the processing, we may produce a byproduct also. And this byproducts, it could be a hazardous material. It could be a pollutants to the environment, such as methyl isocyanate in the insecticide productions. When we produce an insecticide, then we produce a sub pollutants called methyl isocyanate. Okay, there are some factory. Okay, later I tell you. Hazardous waste products such as arsenic in gold tailing, radioactive uranium, and mine tailing. If radioactive uranium is very radioactive, yeah, and arsenic in the gold tailing. Okay, back to here. This one, the immediate or byproducts. So you see, whenever the factory is producing some toxic waste or whatever, they need to have a water treatment, isn't it? Okay, they need to have a water treatment. So how do they judge whether their water treatment is good enough, is clean enough or not? Some of the factory, because they every day they have checked the level of the chemical level of the water treated. Okay, but one of the easiest way that the factory is using is they have one aquarium. They rear fish there. They put fish there. If every day they change the water, if the fish die, that means that the water treatment is having problem, so they need to look into that. But if the fish can still survive in the treated water, that means the water treatment is okay. Yeah. So sometimes if you go to the factory site, you see sometimes they have aquarium that is not for decorations or for hobby. Yeah, that is for them to check how effective is their water treatment. Okay. Okay, consumption effect and downstream effect. Hazardous waste products such as lead, acid, and heavy metal. Heavy metal is just like mercury, chromium. All these are heavy metal. Barium from used battery, lead pollutions from car exhaust. Okay, lead that is from the car exhaust. That's why now our petroleum is lead free, isn't it? Our N95 or whatever is having a lead free. Last time it emit out a lot of lead. Now it's a lead free. Non-biodegradable packaging materials from a discarded product. One of it, obvious, is a plastic material. Release of volatile organic compounds from the paint, solvent, and lacquer. Okay, the volatile organics compound from paint, that because they use the solvent. Okay, before we go to the principle of airborne pollutant and effects, any question? Okay, if no question, I just let you know now when we're talking about the plastic pollutions, yes, our government has stopped, has discouraged people from using plastic bag or whatever by impose certain charges on if you want to use plastic bag, right? But there is another plastic pollutions that you may or may not aware is a microplastic. And now they find out in many, when they cut open the stomach of the aquatic life, they find out that in their stomach, in the fish or dolphin or whatever, there is a lot of this microplastic. You know what is microplastic? Have you heard about it?
Yes,
What is it?
it's like plastic. It will not, it will not decompose. It will become, you become smaller pieces.
No, it's not because it's not decomposed, it become pieces. Originally, it's already in the very small pieces in micron. Have you used a facial scrub? When you
No.
wash your face, you use a facial scrub or not? Like Eversoft or whatever, then you press it out. There is a lot of tiny bits there, isn't it? Right? Those tiny bits are micro plastic. So you cannot filter it. After you wash your face, you just flush it down to the drain only. You cannot filter it or so that it won't go into the river or whatever. So now that all this micro plastic will flow down to the drain, from the drain to the river, from the river to the sea. Okay, and then now they realize that this microplastic are causing a new type of plastic pollutions. Okay, right. So today I will stop here because I don't want to go to another big topic. This one will take some time talking about airborne pollutions. So before we end the class here, any question? Okay, if no question, then thank you, class. And how is your assignment? Have you done? Don't wait until the last minute. Any question about the assignment?
Sir, I have a question about the
What
assignment.
is your question?
Regarding how the technology impacts society, does it do we have to specifically mention about the Malaysian society or whichever country?
Whichever
is fine?
country.
Whichever country is fine.
Yes, it's fine. Whichever country. And some of you are worried that I say the recent the recent technology, right? Because I do not put the time frame there. So some of you are worried about the technology, whether you use is a latest technology or not. And then some of you say that you trace back to the history of the technology. You can go back to 18 something. Not to worry, okay? I will accept those technology that you discuss within 10 to 15 years, okay? Because as far as the technology is not introduced to Malaysia, even in back to 1990s, there is a very popular technology in US, but in Malaysia in 1990s, there is not introduced to Malaysia. It is still not considered as a technology yet. If it is only introduced to Malaysia recently, maybe past 5 years, then it's still considered as a recent technology, right? The use of the word recent or current is because this one is tied up with your program learning outcome, lifelong learning. Okay, I think it's PLO 11 or 12. So that we want to ensure that you know how to source for the relevant information. That's why we put down the word recent. Okay, any other question? Okay, if no question, good luck. Thank you, class.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
thank you,
Gives up.
thank you.